they cannot comment or ask or answer questions based on opinion. They won't know share values.
Okay.
So,
Good. All right, can I go ahead and get started? Is that cool? All right.
we're just waiting for Stephanie.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
She stepped out.
Okay. How many does she have? Not very many. Do you have one of these? Oh. It helps your glasses get less fogged up. I think it does. So you put them in here?
I'll go check.
Yeah. They make them more. It makes them more comfortable. I just got one, so you're welcome. Yeah, I ordered 10 of them. I'm giving to people I like. They are more comfortable.
The lipstick.
It does. That was my biggest thing.
This is very nice.
Yeah, kind of fun. Okay. Two, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12.
What?
12.
12.
Yeah, that's okay. 12. Now she's gone. Okay, all right.
A lot of folks are leaving other teams. A lot of folks.
Yeah. Yeah. I know, I've got my. Oh, no. Oh, no. Get started.
So, Gloria, our community has to get a good understanding of how we.
I'm going to go ahead and.
And I'll tell you about it.
Okay, I'd like to call today's meeting to order. We always begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Trustee Williams, can I ask you to lead the pledge?
Yep. Are we ready? All right, ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. All right. I must inform you that the San Bernardino Community College Board of Trustees offers an opportunity for the public to address the board on any agenda item prior or during the board's consideration of that item. Comments must be limited to 5 minutes per speaker or 20 minutes per topic if there are more than one speaker. At the conclusion of public comment, the board may ask staff to review a matter or may ask that a matter be put on a future agenda. As a matter of law, members of the board may not discuss or take action on matters raised during public comment unless the matters are properly noticed for discussion or action in open session. Anyone who requires a disability-related modification or accommodation in order to participate in the public meeting should contact the Chancellor's office at 909-388-6901 as far in advance of the board meeting as possible. So I do want to make sure that my colleagues, and we do not yet have a quorum, but Trustee Longville is on his way. If you guys, we do have a quorum?
Yeah, 1, 2.
I thought we needed 5. Trustee Reyes is not coming. Yeah, so, okay.
We have a quorum.
4 is quorum? Okay, I'm sorry, I thought it was 5. We have a quorum. Okay, so please, board members, speak directly into your microphone and make sure your microphone light is on whenever you are speaking. We have to do that to capture the audio for the meeting. All right, so moving on to public comments. Let the minutes reflect that the board received written comments for review from Brianna Andrews, Edward Farron, Jeffrey Schmidt, Ruth Gray Raven, Shyla Cobbett, Sherry Blackwell, Barbara Nichols, David Allen, Stephen Rush, and Inez Booker, Arliss Malone, and Nancy Green on action agenda item 4A, resolution to direct district leadership to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for all SBCCD students and employees. The written comments will be entered into the official minutes of this meeting. And I will now call on oral comments. There are 12. I would ask my colleagues, would you like to hear all or keep to 20 minutes or?
Two additional.
14. What would you like to do? And we'll proceed in that way.
If they're all here,
They're all here. We have cards from everyone.
I'm good with hearing you folks. How do y'all feel?
Our past practice has been to hear everyone that's here, although philosophically I think we should limit it. But because our past practice has been to allow anyone that's here, I don't think that we should limit it today because we haven't in past situations. But for the future, I would love us to stick to what we actually have in our procedures.
Yes. Okay. So are you all right with that, Trustee Harrison? Okay. So with that in mind, we will hear all 14 public comments. We ask that you do limit them to 5 minutes per speaker, however. So I have the public comment slips received for oral statements, and you're giving them to me. All right, so they're in order that we receive them. The first one is from Cassandra Thomas on item 4A.
Good evening, esteemed members of the Board of Trustees. I come to you today as a longtime leader at this district, as the former Classified Senate President and the current President of our CSA chapter, and also as a citizen of this district service area.
Ms. Thomas, could you please speak into the microphone so we can be sure to hear you real
I
clearly?
really felt like I was super loud.
I'm sorry.
I'll take this off, that'll help.
Thank you.
As a former Classified Senate President, I am incredibly disappointed at the speed at which the district is willing to dive into this vaccine mandate. Aside from all the concerns I have fielded over the last week, the group of individuals who were selected to represent the district constituency groups, the members of the COVID task force, were only informed of this on Friday, September 17th, 6 days ago. We were given an hour and a half to give feedback and told that this would be the last opportunity for feedback. Just last month, we had our student leadership pushing back on masks. I can only imagine what the student leadership will think about a vaccine mandate, and they deserve their voices to be heard too. By rushing this and voting today, the board would clearly demonstrate that the district has no interest in listening to its constituencies and making an informed decision based on that feedback. Now, as the president of District's Classified Union, I've been incredibly busy over the last few days, answering questions and assuring my members that I will bring their concerns to you today. I would like to share some of their questions and concerns. One question is, why are we not mirroring the K-12 system, which allows for individuals to have a choice between vaccination and regular testing? This question is near and dear to my heart because it's exactly what Chancellor Rodriguez and I have been discussing over the last few months, and we both felt that this was a good alternative to forced vaccination. It is also the alternative that several unions outside of K-12 have already accepted, including police and fire unions. It replaces the requirement for an invasive injection as a matter of employment with a non-invasive test and allows for those who have sincerely held beliefs or natural immunity to have a choice that doesn't include giving up their livelihood. The other question I've had, how will this mandate affect our students? Special groups like veterans are especially vulnerable. When we look at surrounding colleges who have mandated vaccines, they have seen a drop in the enrollment of veterans. this protected group of individuals have a large and unique set of barriers between them and education. Data shows that we lose 22 veterans a day on average, and that those who are enrolled in educational programs are less likely to commit suicide. Aren't we adding another barrier to our veteran students? Additionally, the largest subset of the population that is not, subsets of the population that have not been vaccinated are African Americans and Hispanics, and it's not due to access. Won't this further marginalize our already vulnerable student populations? The other question I'm getting is, why is the district doing this? We asked Christina this exact question during negotiations on Tuesday, and we're told that the reason was a recent directive from the president to OSHA to create a rule requiring vaccines. When I asked a board member why this was moving forward, the individual did not know. Some of the questions OSHA is asking itself now are, how do we handle exemptions? Who pays for the testing? OSHA is still in the process of creating the rules that prompted this response, and those rules are scheduled to be published in November. Why are we acting before the details of the rule can be created? There's a very strong feeling from membership that the district is doing this because this is what all the surrounding community colleges are doing. Essentially, it is felt that we are doing it because we can, and all our friends are doing it. They know that. I would ask the board to take a hard look at why we are doing this, and why are we acting so quickly without all the details being settled. I believe it would take longer than one meeting and one presentation to make this difficult decision. Do I still have time? I'm sorry. I'll rush to the next of it. Okay. As a citizen of the district service area and a chemistry laboratory technician at Valley, I'm concerned about the future of our district. Currently, we are bleeding students who are deciding to work instead of going to school. And we are feeling that in our enrollment, and we're starting to get concerned as a community college. I'm concerned that if we go ahead with the mandate, we will lose even more students who are wanting to return to in-person learning. We are also bleeding talent, and we are having an incredibly difficult time finding quality candidates. This will only make the problem worse. This is a very difficult decision for you to make that will affect our district for many years to come, and I'm speaking to you today to implore you to take a moment to hear from us, all of us, even the small voice in the back of the room. Allow this item to be treated as a first read and direct the chancellor to engage with the campus communities to find a solution that can best work for our district and does not force people to have to choose between something they deeply believe in and their livelihoods or their educational opportunities. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Hello, my name is Darryl Fisher. I'm a lead custodian at Valley. Thank you very much for listening to us. A couple of things. I started my journey and stuff after many years of being addicted to drugs. 15 years I lost in my life, okay? I'm a recovering drug addict now, 21 years, okay? My body naturally fought off Hep B, naturally. No vaccines, no drugs. I am very careful about what I put into my body, okay? I came to college and graduated high school at 50, okay? Graduated Valley College at 53, 2018. First graduating class of the first year experience. Man, I love my school. And now I'm brokenhearted. You're gonna force me to do something that's irreversible. You can't take it back. And what if you're wrong? We're jumping into, you're gonna jump off a cliff without a rope, okay? Let's wait for the informed consent. And then what vaccine are you gonna force me to take? The FDA one hasn't even been brought out yet, okay? So let's wait for some information. Come on, you're gonna kill me. And that's the way I believe. This shot will kill me. Okay? And then you're going to tell me that you're going to hold my job as coercion if I don't bend the knee? I am scared to death, ladies and gentlemen, not of COVID. I'm a custodian. I deal with feces, okay? I deal with HIV. I deal with drug paraphernalia hidden in our toilet paper dispensers, okay? I deal with people, I mean, every day at admin. Come on, I'm cleaning up urine. I'm cleaning up feces, okay? Not just from humans, from animals, okay? We deal with contagions and pathogens, bloodborne. The ladies' restroom, okay? Don't do it. Just let's see. I'm not against vaccines. I'm not against medicine. But it's my choice, my informed consent, okay? My informed consent of what goes in my body, okay? My body. Another thing that happened to me, okay? I used to be a tow operator, okay? 13 years. Police departments, I've seen a lot of death, okay? Out of that job, I got hurt, okay? Was taking injections to the back of my head for 5 years, okay? Believe these doctors. They were like, hey, man, this is going to help you. This is textbook. I mean, we got it. I had a nerve cauterization, none of which worked. None. Okay? I was about to put my arm. They said, hey, man, the risks of this operation, we're going to cut that nerve. We're going to help you out, but you could lose your arm. And by divine intervention, man, I ran into a doctor and said, no, man, that's not your problem. That's like cutting off your leg and you still have an itch in your foot. Your body's going to remember. You know how I got cured of that? 5 years? Physical therapy. Physical therapy. No drugs, no shots, physical therapy. The fact that you guys aren't even looking at outside other remedies and jumping both feet. Oh my God, this is the one. This is the Hail Mary. What if you're wrong? Can't take it back. Opening yourself up for litigation. I'm telling you, on the ground level, I talk to students. I talk to my Wolverines, my sports students, because that's where I take care of. And I'm telling you, they're against it. She just said, we're bleeding students. That's money out your pocket. Money out of our pocket. Education. That's supposed to be the thing, right? Why are you segregating people? Why are you making this against them? Why? This is an institution that is supposed to embrace diversity. It is to embrace people's personal feelings. My personal feeling is you're going to kill me. And I'm a damn good custodian. You ask my ladies over there in student house services how happy they are to have Darryl as their custodian. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for your consideration.
Good afternoon, Board. I'm here to support the resolution on today's agenda to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for all San Bernardino Community College District students and employees. The vision statements from SBVC says we will hold both our students and ourselves to high standards of achievement and will expect all members of the college community to function as informed, responsible, and active members of society. In regard to what the first speaker said, my question up until Sunday evening was, why has the district waited so long to create this resolution? The UCs have passed it, the Cal States, half the community colleges almost. One of the value statements says that plans and decisions must be data-driven and based on an informed consideration of what will best serve students and the community. The data is indisputable. The vaccine saves lives and prevents serious illness. Part of the vision statement for all California community colleges is to make sure students from all backgrounds succeed in reaching their goals. Not all learners thrive online. Not all subjects are suitable in an online environment. Various students have indicated that Various studies have indicated that student success rates and student overall satisfaction about their education are lower in online classes compared to face-to-face traditional teaching environments, particularly at the undergraduate level. I am certain that each one of you serving on the board can recall certain professors that had a profound influence on your success. I, too, am a graduate of Valley College and of the University of California system, as well as the Juilliard School in New York City. Some of the best teaching I received was from impassioned professors in the classroom at Valley College. The education was in person and inspiring. Now, due to COVID-19, most classes have been moved to remote instruction. A few of our current students have informed me that in some asynchronous classes, they have never seen or had any interaction with the professor over the entire course of the semester. This can hardly qualify as high-quality instruction. The sooner that this resolution is approved, the sooner we can get our instructors back in the classroom and continue our mission. This decision must not be political, nor personal feeling should come into play. It should be based on the data and what is best for all learning styles. Let's get our boots back on the ground and in the classroom for those that need that in-person learning experience. Thank you.
Thank you, members of the board, for this time to speak. Former President Ronald Reagan had said, "The great change that happens in any country starts at the kitchen table." Be it to start a family, be it to move, be it to make whatever life decisions, it starts at the kitchen table. Half of our population, more than half, in the United States has already been vaccinated. So if those who have wanted to, by all means they can. Everyone has to make their own different health decisions, be it they have cancer, be it they have a low immune system. I have a professor who they chose to get vaccinated because their immune system is shot due to having cancer treatment. By all means, let's make those decisions based on your personal health. If it's, some of us, I gotta lose some weight. Let's work on that. Let's make decisions on personal health, but should I throw that on someone else? Should I put that decision on them and make them do it because I feel uncomfortable or fearful? You can have education come from anywhere, be it asynchronous, be it synchronous, in person, not in person. But to take away the choice from somebody, you're not giving your college students, your staff, opportunity to thrive, to take on their choices. I love the work I do as a student, as a part of a staff at Valley College. I love doing that, seeing the athletes, seeing them thrive, seeing them compete in person. But I love having them see them grow and make their own decisions, be it to stay in a sport, be it to hang in there even if they got an injury halfway through the season and they're going to stick it in there. But to take away the choice saying you have to test, you have to do certain things in order to dwell in society, as a student of history, that never bodes well for any country or society who takes away choice from the people. Let them have their choice. Let them have their liberty to do so. Let them thrive. Thank you.
I too would like to thank the board for taking the moment to listen to myself and others. And I also would like to thank everyone that has spoken so far and everyone that will continue to speak, because that is our rights as Americans to have free speech, whether your opinion differs from mine or not. So I thank you for coming out and speaking, because too many people just want to complain and they don't want to take action. And action is how we change and mold our society. My largest problem that I have with this whole thing being rushed is the actual informed thought process and data. So if we're going to go data-driven, let's talk about data-driven and what liable aspects we're going to be as a college, as a community, as myself a taxpayer, and also a business owner in the area. I don't want to fund the liability from rushing this. There's the FDA, as far as this vaccine being approved, it hasn't been approved. It is still operating under an emergency use authorization through the name BioNTech. This is the approval letter from the FDA for Community, which there is no plans to make Community available in the United States. It currently isn't in production and it isn't available. So how can you say a vaccine has efficacy, and how can you say a vaccine is approved when I can't hold the creator responsible for the outcome that happens to myself or anyone else? So now we're going to mandate that as a college district. We're going to make this a workplace injury if any side effects happen, and the college and the district and the taxpayers and the community are going to be on the hook for that injury. As Casey offered up earlier, OSHA hasn't even made a ruling on this as to how it's to be implemented. In my viewpoint, a test, a COVID test, is a medical procedure. And how is that a alternative? How is that a reasonable accommodation for my religious practice that doesn't allow me to benefit from anything that was procreated from aborted fetal tissue? And MNRA is designed, developed, and tested on aborted fetal tissue. And I can tell you, my viewpoints on that will never change. I'm not here to say somebody shouldn't have an abortion. That's my rights. That's my thoughts, and that's my deeply held religious conviction with my wife. And we're not going to participate. And so to say that my reasonable accommodation is to go through a medical procedure, I don't know how many of you have had it. I got the great pleasure of having it last week when my latest son was born, and they shoved that Q-tip to my blood-brain barrier. It's extremely uncomfortable. I had to call 6 clinics in order to get an appointment, and it cost me $100 out of pocket. And now you're going to mandate that for me to come to work and feed my family. You're going to make that decision. You're going to put that barrier between everybody, whether they're going to stick with their moral and ethical foundations or put food on their table for their family and protect their family. It's a very important thought process. I do not step aside from my moral and ethical beliefs. It's not going to happen. Not lastly, but one of the other things I'd like to point out is Alabama's already been sued for this. And the Doctors for Informed Consent just filed an amicus briefing taking that up with the Supreme Court. Now, their emergency stay may have been denied, but this isn't done yet. And what kind of liability will we have when the Supreme Court comes out and says OSHA is overstepping their bounds? Just like they did not 3 weeks ago when they said the CDC doesn't write laws and it has to go through Congress. How are we going to then be liable for what we just made people do? I understand the Ed Code allows you to do it. I do understand that. But sometimes you're allowed to do things and you just shouldn't do them. You should just hold up and understand the validity, the size and scope of what you're asking. And the fact that this was pushed when we have in 2 or 3 weeks another board meeting on the calendar agenda, we could have taken it up then. We could have waited to see what's going on. When you look at the Doctors for Informed Consent, they put out the the peer study of vaccinated and unvaccinated in people that already have had COVID. And the peer study through the FDA on the Pfizer vaccine, which I'm going to leave here so you guys could review in your closed session, shows that you're actually 6 times more likely to contract COVID if you've been vaccinated, based on the 2 peer studies of 2,000 people. 2,000 were given the vaccine, 2,000 were given a placebo, and 6 times more likely within 28 days. So how is that stopping the spread? How is that controlling a virus or an illness? Again, informed is the key word. Informed. We have to go and do the actual research. We don't take talking heads on the internet. We don't take talking heads on the TV. We do the actual research. And I'm afraid of what we're opening ourselves up to, libel. That's what I have to say. Thank you for your time. But I don't want to fund the liability. I really don't. And as a community member, as a taxpayer, and I can tell you that just like across the board, in my BNI groups, in my team marketing groups, at my church, at the American Legion, at my kids' different activities with gymnastics and everything else, this is a 50-50 whether you are or aren't. And Occam's razor would say that what is the most obvious answer is probably the truth. So why are we going to be rushing this? It almost seems malicious. It really does, if I'm being honest. But thank you for your time.
Hello, my name is Quinn Patch. I'm a student from Crafton, and I came here to voice my opinion. I believe that mandating the vaccine is morally wrong. In America, we all have the right of choice, and if you want to get the vaccine, you have the right to do so. If you don't, you have the right. So to mandate it would be wrong to enforce it upon students or employees, and among the community of students, we like to be in person. As the other gentleman mentioned, students do learn better in person, but you don't have to force a mandated vaccine for us to be in person. We can all be in person without being vaccinated. That's why we wear the mask. We have socially distanced classrooms. Thank you.
Cassidy Walters.
Hi, my name is Cassidy Walters. I am a student at Crafton and have been on campus since 2019. Thank you for allowing me to be able to speak with you this evening. COVID has been hard for me as a student. I didn't do well online, and it was hard sitting downstairs at my dining room table, trying not to fall asleep because I could not interact with anyone in my class. And I was staring at a computer screen, having the teacher go fast when taking notes because they couldn't see when the students were still writing. So not only do I not get all the notes, but then they tell us we don't need a book because we can look at our notes, and then those notes are not useful for the test, and everything I write is not on the test. One time, I was having to do a lab simulator on the computer for my bio class, and I kept getting mad because I couldn't get the simulator breaker to do what the steps required. I was frustrated, wanting to throw my computer because I could not understand, because there was no teacher to explain it. I was looking forward to graduation in spring and walking at my first ever college graduation with my associate's degree. Then I was told from my teachers this week that I might not get the chance to do that because we have to be vaccinated to be on campus, and it starts in spring, which is my last semester at Crafton. The thought of not being able to walk at my first college graduation, it makes me very sad. My Psych 120 teacher told us that Crafton was one of the colleges in our area that was not mandating a vaccine because they didn't think it was fair. So my question is, why now? I ended up taking a semester off because my brain could not handle being online. I'm not getting vaccinated, and it is not fair to me to not be able to go to campus and get the education that is best for me. Further, I am not afraid of COVID. Once I had it and I was confirmed, when I was forced to stay in my house, I was bored with no symptoms and never felt bad except for the first 3 hours after my mom got me started on hydroxychloroquine, which also has the vaccine. And not a single person in my family got sick, and I was around them all the time, hugging them and being with them, and I could not wait to get back to school and my normal everyday life. Please do not force a vaccine on me. I have immunity. Thank you for your time.
Joelle D. Walters.
Good afternoon, and thank you to the Crafton Hills College Board of Trustees for your time today. I appreciate the time to be able to speak with you guys. I come to you guys today not only as an alumni of Crafton Hills College, but also as a mom who has been extremely disappointed in how our kids have been used as pawns in the political fight the state of California has been waging against the people of what used to be one of the best states in the country. Unfortunately, both my children have been held hostage, and I will continue to step up and fight for our rights and the rights of our children. My son, who graduated with the class of 2021 from Yucaipa High School, lost his entire senior year. Didn't spend a single day in a regular classroom his entire senior year, and the end of his junior year, too. Something that has never happened in history. Also, as the as a chief operations officer at the state licensed and Joint Commission accredited treatment center in Redlands, I understand the policies that are being forced upon us by DHCS, CDPH, and Cal OSHA. And I have to say that the schools have even taken the safety protocols to the point that even healthcare doesn't have to follow. I come to you very dismayed at the lack of critical thinking that we seem to have lost in this country. Has anyone lately been watching college football games on TV lately? Seen how many thousands of people are hanging out together right next to each other? Has anybody watched the Emmys? Has anybody looked at what's going on at the border? This country is no longer under a lockdown, and our numbers are down considerably. We're not having to stay in our houses anymore. Unfortunately, there is so much propaganda and lies out there that is truly mind-blowing, and it is hard to decipher which propaganda is, in fact, the truth and which is lies. We have to dig deeper and find out what is actual fact. I am hopeful that this Board of Trustees will continue to use their critical thinking skills and step up as leaders and lead the way in the great city of Yucaipa. Does anyone know that the sample, do you guys all know that the sample that was used to set the PCR tests to be able to test for COVID was not from a sample of SARS-CoV-2? It was from a sample of the coronavirus, which is the common cold. So the tests were then not set at the recommended cycle rates of 10 cycles, but however, then they were ended up pushed out to 40 plus cycles so that they would pick up dead mRNA, which guarantees false positives. So as of December 31st, per the CDC website, they are no longer going to be using the PCR testing because of all of these false positives. So if the tests have been that we have been doing have been incorrect, and they've been treating based off of the administering the incorrect results, isn't that malpractice? Why are the treatments that are effective and saving lives being villainized and undermined in the mainstream media? Here are some more facts that I need for you guys to take into careful consideration before making the unconstitutional demands that are being considered. The FDA has no idea if the experimental vaccinations are safe because they have not done their due diligence and procedures of watching and performing clinical trials that are peer-reviewed over a period of 6 to 8 years. Granting FDA approval over a drug that has only been distributed for 9 months is unethical and dangerous. Furthermore, the only FDA-approved vaccination is the Comirnaty strand, which is a future strand. When the BioNTech is done, then the Comirnaty, but it's not even going to be released in the United States of America. So the only vaccinations that are available in the United States is the Pfizer-BioNTech, which is still under EUA, as is the Moderna and as is Johnson & Johnson. How is it that these vaccinations and masks have been given EUA when there are treatments? How is it that you are all voting on forcing something that is under EUA still? Forced vaccinations violate the Nuremberg War Crimes Code, the UN Charter, the International Criminal Court laws, the US Constitution, and the Declaration of Geneva. You cannot mandate a vaccine that is under EUA. Remember that even with the massive numbers of false positives that we have, the statistics still show that for people ages 20 to 49, the survival rate is 99.98% untreated. And this is according to the CDC data. All you have to do is pull it up and do the math. My kids do not do online school well at all, and they deserve the chance to go to in-person school without the risk of being forced to take a vaccination that is still under EUA and showing to be not safe at all. So please stand up and fight against the tyranny that is being forced upon this country right now. And I have to say, I'm really scared that we're discussing voting forcing vaccinations in the United States of America. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Our presenter
apparently has to leave. So we would like our presenter to present, and then we will resume public comments. So if I could call Deborah Philpott, Interim Program Manager, and Josh Dugas, Public Health Director, to begin their presentation.
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm just going to present some data to you today regarding our current COVID-19 numbers within the county. Can someone move the slide, please? Perfect. This here shows our total cases and information as of yesterday. So total cases in the county, you can see there 337,387. Our case rate right now is 21.8. That case rate has been decreasing over the last few weeks, but is still pretty high. Our positivity rate has flattened out over the last few days, and our overall positivity is at about 5.3%. Total deaths in our county are 5,520, and you can see that we're actually doing quite a bit of testing throughout our county. Next slide, please. This shows current variant data in our county. I think the important thing to note is that you can see from this slide that the Delta variant there towards the bottom makes up 66.73% of all variants sequenced. However, over the last few weeks, it's been at 100% or just under it. So right now, we're seeing primarily Delta cases in the variant in the samples that are sequenced. That is not every case. We don't sequence every positive case, but on the ones that we do, we are seeing primarily Delta. Next slide, please. This is just to let you know that vaccination appointments are available. You can go on our website or call 909-387-3911, and we will help anyone that wants an appointment get an appointment. Next slide, please. This is our current vaccination data. You can see that 63.2% of our county has at least one vaccination. 55.8% is fully vaccinated. Next slide, please. This slide shows our vaccine equity throughout the county. The state has released it's called a Healthy People Index. It divides the county or the state into 4 different quartiles, with quartile 1 being those that have the most risk factors or challenges in the areas that they live, and quartile 4 being those that are more affluent. You can see a lot of our county is in quartile 1, and you can see those percentages there that about 57% of quartile 1 is vaccinated versus 73% of our quartile 4. Next slide, please. Pfizer vaccine has received full FDA approval for 16 and over. That doesn't apply to anyone under 16, and it doesn't apply to the other vaccines at this time. Next slide, please. Additional booster shots, those are being discussed right now. There's still details being hashed out. We don't have all the details, but we anticipate that boosters will be available in some form or fashion within the next few days, if not next week. So currently the projection is for 65 and older, and those and individuals at a higher risk for contracting severe COVID symptoms. It's currently authorized for those who are immunocompromised. Next slide, please. That's pretty much all the information I have. I can throw in a few more statistics that I wrote down. Since February 1st, which would have been about the time the first people that received the vaccine would have been fully vaccinated, 18 out of 294 deaths that we reported are from vaccinated people, or 5.7% of our deaths are from vaccinated people. The rest are from unvaccinated. 13.8% of our cases are in individuals who have received the vaccine, meaning that about 87 or 86% of our cases are in people who are unvaccinated. Other than that, I think that's all I have for you today, and I thank you for your time. I'd like to encourage you to continue to wash your hands, cover your face, maintain social distancing, and most importantly, stay home if you're sick.
Do we know yet, or is there any data, when you think about the boosters, what the health effects of having multiple vaccinations in the same year? I mean, usually we get annual vaccinations, and so this is a little different where folks will be possibly vaccinated over and over again. Do we know what the health effects of that is?
In order to receive FDA approval, they're required to do studies, and the FDA looks at all the data that's been presented. I haven't personally reviewed all that data, but you know, traditionally, in order for the FDA to approve something, there's usually a low risk.
Of the multiple vaccinations?
For anything they approve, for that matter, but in this case, for the booster shot.
And then the vaccination that's currently being distributed, was it designed to reduce symptoms or stop spread?
It works both ways, but it does not completely eliminate spread. It does reduce symptoms. So as you can see from the numbers, you know, we still have breakthrough cases, but in a majority of those breakthrough cases, there's little to no symptoms, and most of our hospitalizations are with those that are unvaccinated.
And then my last question is, what have you seen as the most effective method to reduce the spread?
Right now, the most effective to reduce spread,
Yeah.
Anytime you stay away from people and sick people stay home, that reduces the spread of any disease. To reduce the spread of this, this is no different than the flu in the way it spreads. There's a lot of differences overall, but to reduce spread, you're going to want to stay home if you're sick and not be around sick people. I mean, it's just the flat out fact of the matter is sick people get other people sick. But the best protection we have, in my opinion, right now against this disease is the vaccine.
Thank you.
Do you have any, please?
Just a quick question. So, you know, my concern is campus safety, right? And so when we look at a vaccine and the impact of a vaccine on campus safety, can you speak to that just a little bit? I understand case rates, I understand positivity rates, I understand those data point, but I'm just the safety piece, and I think it's sort of a piggyback on what Trustee Williams said with regard to spread and regard to people getting sick, right? My concern is that I want as few people as possible to get sick. So can you speak to vaccine and people getting sick? And I guess it's more spread.
So I can't speak to campus safety directly. But what I can say is that one of the best protections we have out there right now to ensure people remain healthy and prevent death is a vaccine.
Thank you.
Did you have any questions? No, he's already asked. Okay. Well, thank you, Director Jacobs. All right. So I appreciate the members of the public allowing us to break into the public comments, and I'd like to resume public comments at this time. Christy Simonson, please.
Members of the board, thank you for allowing me to speak. We've heard a lot over the past few years about equity and making sure that everyone has equal access to educational services. But the course that we are looking at taking here has a great impact on those who are undocumented. They are shown to be less likely to get the vaccination, according to the statistics, and are therefore being pushed out and not able to achieve the education that they desire. We are also looking here at creating a class system by doing this of those who are vaccinated and those who are unvaccinated, in which the unvaccinated are not allowed to pursue their education in the way in which they learn best, and the unvaccinated workers are not eligible to retain their jobs. And I would ask you to consider that very carefully as you're making this decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Brandis Mello.
Hi, good evening. Let me get my speech up, sorry. So as the Classified Senate President at Crafton Hills College, it is my duty to be a voice for all the classified members at the campus. With that being said, this vaccination mandate has divided our members. While some are in agreement that this mandate should be pushed forward, there are a large number of those against this for a variety of reasons. Transparency was a key issue with this in regards to how this plan was already written out without the input of the campuses, and that this mandate was decided on despite the fact that the district stated that we would not be going in this direction. We have seen how much other districts mandating vaccines have hindered their enrollment severely, yet we seem to be following suit despite our current situation. The other larger aspect is forcing people, staff, and students to get the vaccination if they want to still be employed or to attend our campus. For lack of a better term, this is threatening individuals to follow a policy that California community colleges have never implemented. We do not require vaccinations, nor do we require people to show proof of them. Lastly, the intention of speeding this process forward to be completed by November 1st does not actually give everyone enough time. We are assuming that students do not have any other obligations and can drop what is needed to get it done by that date. What about students we have that register past that date? I know this is more of a logistics question, but sometimes, and something to be thought about with this blanket mandate. If students do not comply, we are dropping them from their in-person classes and transitioning them to online classes. By doing this, we are saying that the classes they had scheduled in person will be the exact classes online, offered at the same time or asynchronous. What if the classes are not the same? We are hindering students the ability to complete degree, graduation, and/or transfer requirements. The vaccination itself has become such a politicized situation that the care and consideration of the people appears to be put on the back burner. Classified and people in general are afraid to voice their opinions or thoughts on the matter for fear of being labeled, judged, and criticized no matter their stance, which is truly unfortunate. As an education system, we proclaim that we are inclusive, equitable, and value accessibility. But the actions that we put forward, not just with this mandate, can be seen as otherwise. We need to move beyond this idea of safe spaces and incorporate brave spaces to encourage and support all voices and opinions without fear of criticism or being patronized. Thank you for your time and giving me the opportunity to represent our members and explain all aspects of the situation and not just a simple yes or no to the mandate.
Thank you. Brandy Bayless.
Hi, everyone. I also submitted a written statement on behalf of the Academic Senate for Crafton Hills College, but I did not hear it listed on the written statements that were submitted to the board. I have a copy with me if it is not part of the written statements. I am here on behalf of Crafton Hills College Academic Senate Executive Committee and faculty members that did not feel comfortable speaking to the board themselves. I have heard from faculty, as Jeff stated, that have wondered why this has taken us so long. There are concerns brought up by faculty about how this will be implemented, but we have faith that the negotiation process will address those concerns. The number of students in a section has not been reduced, and we have no formal social distancing on our campus, and I wanted to address that because it has come up. There is no social distancing within our classrooms. In general, faculty support vaccinations to protect our students and our faculty. We do have a concern that the November 1st deadline would be confusing for students that are already enrolled. We believe that it is the intention to have our students fully vaccinated before the start of term 2020, and we would like that this resolution be updated to reflect that so that students are not misled into believing that they will be dropped from classes during fall. We would like our students and our faculty to return to our campuses safely, and we believe the vaccination will help us do so. As part of the written statement that I submitted, there is information on how difficult it has been for faculty to have a voice when these meetings are face-to-face, so I wanted to take the opportunity to read that section. We would also like to remind the board that due to the in-person nature of these meetings, many of our faculty feel uncomfortable being present to give public comments. Although written comments are permitted, we have been informed that they will not be read aloud to the board during the meeting. These written comments were also due days before the meeting, allowing little time to submit them after the resolution was made public. We find this underrepresentation of our voices disheartening, and we ask that the board remain mindful of those who cannot be present to speak, and that their voices are not being heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we be sure that Ms. Bayless's written statement is added to the minutes, please? Thank you. Meredith McLaren, please.
Good evening, members of the board. Sorry, I can't, my mask. I am here tonight to speak for the San Bernardino Community College Teachers Association on the topic of the mandatory vaccinations, specifically as they relate to faculty and students. I want to offer my support and the support of the SBCCDTA Exec Board on this matter. SBCCDTA is committed to protecting the health and safety of faculty. While masks offer some level of protection, vaccinations provide the next level of protection for the faculty who work for this district. We will work with the administration to negotiate the impact of this resolution so that the needs of faculty are addressed. And I am confident with our past history that we will be able to do that to a successful resolution. So I am here to encourage the board members to vote yes on this resolution tonight.
Jamie Sierra.
Good evening, board. My name is Jamie, and I work for Crafton Hills College as a senior student services technician in the Disabled Students Department. I'm speaking to express my disappointment with the board's consideration to mandate the COVID-19 vaccines for SBCCD employees and students. I have dedicated 5 years of full-time employment, 3 years of part-time employment, and 2 years of student education to Crafton Hills College. Needless to say, Crafton is like my second home. I've always been treated with fairness and dignity at Crafton. I will no longer say the same if the vaccine mandate passes. The recent mask mandate has been quite successful at Crafton. Employees, faculty, and staff seem to respect and abide by the mandate on all areas of campus. This, I argue, should remain in place as opposed to mandating the vaccine. My vaccination status is entirely personal. I will hold strong to my personal values, and I will strongly reconsider working for an establishment that attempts to force my medical decisions on me. I work in the Disabled Student Services Department at Crafton, which is a very understaffed department. Often, filling staff vacancies is a long and tireless process, and I would hate to leave my fellow coworkers with even more work than they already have for a long period of time. However, I may choose to burden them with this to protect my body, my medical freedom, and my voice. I respectfully ask you to reconsider mandating the COVID-19 vaccine for SBCCD employees. I love working for Crafton Hills College, and I feel that I'm a strong contributor to student services. And I would like to continue my career in SBCCD, so long as I maintain my medical freedom. Thank you.
Mary Valdemar.
Hi, board members. My name is Mary Valdemar. I'm a student alumni, community member, and staff at San Bernardino Valley College Library, where I've been advocating on campus for probably almost 20 years now. Many of us know this is a hard time. Some of us have been working with high-risk folks, houseless folks, youth, undocumented folks. We've been attending the OSHA meetings, all the trainings, all the public forum and feedback that is informing what's happening at the state level with OSHA, participating in protections and the discussion of protections for all labor, not just us here at the district. We all want to protect folks. We all want to save lives. But many of the solutions adopted over the last 2 years were proposed at collegial consultation levels for years. Making all the processes online and digital, remote working from home, 410 options, rigorous prevention and safety policies, these were opposed, ignored, and swept under the rug. I've been frustrated, but also grateful that at least now some are listening to these ideas, finally, and more importantly, implementing them. Now you're choosing tonight to go to a mandate route rather than consult in good faith with the faculty, staff, and community experts that are at your fingertips. Why? It's not just what you do, but how you do it. The irony of the timing is not lost on me. On the same agenda is your board self-evaluation. As staff, I get evaluated. As faculty, we get evaluated. Even students clearly get evaluated, and we collectively are held accountable for their failures. But you as a board evaluate yourself? I read it thoroughly. Almost every measure you rated yourself above par. Ask yourself now if the employees, if the students, if a majority of the community members who actually live here in San Bernardino would rate you the same. You're making a choice tonight to mandate and continue to ignore good faith efforts by many of us to come to the table and come to solutions together. This tone feels like policing instead of collaboration. Hiding this action in a strategy session instead of a regular board meeting or at the table with all stakeholders feels familiar also. We just went through this with KVCR. You are not listening, and you are not living up to your obligations to ensure that these decisions include the folks most impacted. Taking this route plays right into the hands of the wrong folks. Many of us have been working hard to inform, raise awareness, address access issues, calm the fears held by many community members with valid concerns and deep historical trauma. Mandates don't help with this. Better access and education does. Before this move to force folks was made, efforts to have testing and vaccination available on all sites should have already been a reality. How about transportation from SBCCD to the testing at Inland Center for community members? How about expansion of the vaccine outreach efforts at the Middle College? This is an equity issue. It's a test of your true commitment to collegial consultation, especially at the times when the stakes are highest and not just at accreditation. Thank you.
That concludes public comments. Moving on to the action agenda, item A, resolution to direct district leadership to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for all SBCCD students and employees. So in order for us to have discussion on this, I need a motion and a second. May I have a motion?
I'd like to move that we postpone this item until trustee Longville arrives.
Do we know where trustee Longville is? We have a quorum at this point. We can discuss the item.
I feel like all of the trustees should be here. If he's on his way, I'd like to wait for him.
My other colleagues?
It's not debatable, so either someone seconds it or you move on to something else. So I'd like to just move to the board self-evaluation, and then if he comes, then we can come back to this item. But I think all of the this is an important. I mean, I could have been in LA at the we had all of the higher education heads. You know, we're supposed to be meeting. I'm supposed to be talking to them about textbooks. But you know, if he's on his way, they should be here. They should be here.
I agree, they should be here. So what do we do with this? Do we take a break? What is the appropriate?
So I'm just saying postpone till he arrives, and then let's just go to the board self-evaluation, and then we can come back to this.
Do I need to take a vote from my colleagues?
I need a
on
second.
postponement?
I need a second.
Okay, so we need a second to that. Will anyone second that?
You're just moving the order of business. That's what he's recommending.
He's, okay. Do we need a second to move the order of business?
Yes, you do. You need a second.
Okay.
Yeah,
Can
so
I get a second? Please, Trustee Houston.
I think we didn't officially approve the agenda in any order, so it would seem to me that we could change the order since we never made a motion to approve it as it is printed.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, so that's my motion addresses that. So I'm just saying, let's postpone the item until trustee Longville arrives. You know, I'm being told he's on his way.
Mm-hmm.
and let's just take up the board self-evaluation.
Madam Chair, we just got information that Trustee Longville will be here within 15 to 20 minutes. You can move to take a break until he arrives, or you can rearrange the order of the agenda, whatever the board's preference is.
What would the board like to do? I'd recommend a break so that we're not starting something, keeping a bunch of people here as we go through another item. What do you guys think?
Well, just personally, I'd rather just jump to the other item and then and not take a break, because I feel like break is going to postpone everything just a little bit longer if we're ready to talk about the self-evaluation, and then when Trustee Longville gets here, we'll finish that discussion if we're not finished, and then go to the the action item at that point. That way, we're not delaying everything.
Okay, do my colleagues agree we could just move on to we'll table this item for right now. We will come back to it after the discussion of the second item. Is there anything specifically under Robert's rules or whatever that I have to do in order to make sure that that's appropriate for the minutes?
Just
as you stated. Okay. Okay, so that's what we will do. Moving on then to, we are not tabling the item. We are still going to go back to the item. We'll have discussion on the item. But while we're waiting for Trustee Longville to arrive, hopefully soon, then we'll move on to the next item, the 2021 Board Self-Evaluation Report and Analysis and Data Ratings. Could I please ask Mitch, is it Hovey or Hovey? You know, I should know this because I met you. Hello. And Dick Bray to come begin the board's self-evaluation review, please. Yeah, we were going to go down there to have that discussion, but we can just stay here.
Feel free to use the microphones.
Yeah,
right
please.
There. If you need 2 microphones, we can pull one off of the podium in the back. That should work just as well.
Okay, and somebody did speak to Trustee Longville, and he said he would be about 20 minutes? Okay, thank you.
There we go.
Well, thank you very much. This is nice to see you all again. We're here as a follow-up to the board workshop retreat that we did back in June 29th, June 30th, which we felt very good about. We made some great progress. We talked a lot about working together and coming together, and sort of left it with, we did the board self-eval. We put together a report, which you have a copy of the data, and you also have a copy of our analysis and report. So we're here to come back to you just to talk to you about the results that we came up with. And then when all is said and done, to talk about any next steps that you'd like us to take as you continue to work together. So Dick Bray, my colleague here, he really put together the report since he worked with you. More with that as I worked with the executive cabinet on another issue about the learning working styles and stuff. So I'm going to have Dick report out. We'll start probably with the data ratings, which I think is in page 23 in your packet, and then we'll talk about the report analysis, which you'll find on page 20. So, Dick?
Thank you, Mitch. And again, it's just really nice to be with you again this evening and see you all. If you take a look at the ratings, it's on the screen. Remember, it was a 4-point scale. And we had 42 governance indicators that you rated yourselves on that were broken up into 7 different categories. Your data on each one, what your 7 scores, the average of your 7 scores for each of the 42 indicators are there for you to see. Also, there was a chance to make comments, and we have added those comments to each one. The first section of the 7 is on board chancellor relations, and that particular one you rated yourselves very well. That whole section was rated at 3.63. Again, anything between 3 and a 4 is you're seeing that, or you're really saying that you feel good about what you're doing and on those governance indicators. On the second page, you have the rest of the items on section 1. Also point out that on number 6, you had a rare 4.0. All 7 of you rated number 6 demonstrates respect toward Chancellor, members of her cabinet, and community college district staff as a 4.0. That was excellent. Section 2 is on board meetings. And again, on this one, you rated it very strongly between 3 and 4, mostly 3.71. The third section is board and community relations. The average for that section, those 5 governance standards was 3.65, and you can see the spread on each of those. Again, in this area, number 3 supports the board president and his or her role as spokesperson was a 4. That was excellent. Section 4 starts at the bottom of the page. It's board qualities. And the average there was 3.61 for those 9 indicators. Area 5 was board in service, and they had 4 governance indicators there. Those you rated all between 3 and 4. Numbers 3 and 4, though, were a little lower. 3 was a 3.0, and 4 was a 3.14.
Yeah, what's your thoughts on number 3?
I'm sorry?
No, I was just asking my colleagues, strive toward growth through a planned board in-service program with the help of the chancellor. That's the lowest score of all of the scores. Is there something that you want to see different or better in the in-service programs?
When I look at that, I kind of chalk it up that we have a new chancellor and we're still kind of working through how we're planning together.
We based this before. Did we take this before we hired a new chancellor?
No.
Because I'm assuming we're basing it on previous experience. I wouldn't base it on the chancellor.
Mm-hmm. So then it would have been the interim chancellor then.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But do we want to see anything different with our in-service training? Because that's the lowest score of all of them.
Well, actually, Section 7 has your lowest score.
Section 7 is? Oh, wow, yeah, the board goal setting. But that's connected to the goal setting because we do generally goal setting in our in-service program. So,
which we'll sort of address when we get into the results of the summer. We'll sort of talk about that. And that's the importance of coming back to what do you feel are your next steps. This is just presenting the data to give you an idea of how the board felt at the time, based upon where you've been, coming in with a new chancellor, and then talking about next steps. So the main things we want just to share with you, the data of what people thought on the day you took it, and then talk about some next steps when we talk about the report and analysis.
Yeah. So section 6 on policy development, you can see those scores. Those are all between 3s and 4s. And number 7 is goal setting and planning. Now that was your lowest area. And you can see the first one establishes clearly identified community college district goals annually based on the assessed needs of the district and the recommendations of the chancellor. That was over a 3, so that was good, but it was a low 3, 3.16. 2, 3, 4, and 5, though, were all 2.71. These were your 4 lowest rated scores on these 4 indicators. The first was monitors annually the implementation of district goals. Number 3 was establishes clearly identified board development goals based on the outcome of the board's self-evaluation. The 4th was plans and implements appropriate activities for the achievement of board development goals. And the 5th one was reviews and revises annually the board's long-term plan. In our analysis and report, what we basically have said in the analysis, and I'm sure you've all read this. First of all, seeing all the scores between 3 and 4 for most of the indicators, in fact, 38 of the 42 were above 3. So that was actually excellent. You really feel like you're doing a good job in 38 of the 42. And it was really just those last 4 that were below 3. And those were all in the area of strategic planning, and planning for the future, setting goals, having a strategic plan. And those, in fact, are what you talked about at the retreat. So really, this really showed us 2 things. One, the scores, the higher scores for 38 of the 42 indicators shows really a veteran board that is that understands unity and understands the need to get together in a retreat format or a workshop format and really look at themselves and look at where the district's going and where it wants to go. And the low scores in those 4 areas were really what was talked about the very most at the retreat, was moving forward, getting the new chancellor in place, and then working on strategic planning, strategic goals, and moving the district forward. And so it was an area that you saw the need for, and at the retreat made the commitment to address those areas. So it was not a surprise to see it at all in your self-study, because that again was really what the discussion was all about at the retreat. Did you have any questions?
I do. So, as a statistician, I'm never really thrilled with an N of less than 10, okay? And we're working with 7. So even on those items where it's the 2.71, you've got 2 4s and a 1 and 2 2s. You know what I mean? You're getting a very false average. Mm-hmm. So rather than focusing on the numbers, because they do tend to be somewhat disparate on those items, I'd really like a discussion here with my colleagues in regards to your take on those things. I know that in our meeting, we sat together and worked out how we were doing those ratings. We didn't take them home. We had an opportunity for discussion. I kind of understood we were more or less on the same page, so I was surprised to see the disparity in the numbers. It would be helpful at this point in time, as we are still awaiting our trustee colleague, to be able to talk about where we were coming from on these particular items in the hope of establishing some commonality of thought so we can come up with better goals or goal processes. So I'd like to open the discussion on that particular item, that section of items.
May I?
Please.
My perception and opinion is that we've been talking for about a year, at least, maybe a year and a half, about confusion in terminology and a variety of different goals and the words that we use to identify, do we have board goals, do we have district goals, do we have strategic priorities, and all of that. And my perception is that when we were doing this, we were starting to get to the point where we had a little bit more clarity about what we meant when we were saying goals, and then from there, with that clarity, move toward what it is that we're going to be monitoring, what it is that we're going to be looking for, so that we can actually have goals that have both leading and lagging indicators, and that we would be able to really monitor what matters, and then base our decisions and policies and the conditions that we're trying to create on those elements, and that there had been confusion, and if I'm remembering, that was kind of what we've been talking about for the last little bit.
For quite a while. So are you saying, do I understand it correctly, that you're saying that some folks may have approached those items from what we had been doing versus what we were beginning to do, and that might account for the disparity in rating?
That would be my opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in a better place than we've been in the past. So I feel like we're going in a good direction, but, I'm not going to be satisfied until I see an end product in implementation, because, we've had annual planning sessions for the 9 years that I've been here, and, for me, it's all about what's the thing that we can point to as a result of the time that we spent. What I think we can do a better job at is just getting an understanding of what exists in the universe, going and go visit other districts and other states, and just that should help us with the goals that we want to set as a district, because sometimes I feel like we don't know what's out there, and and that's part of the board's role, is to drive the vision and drive the goals of where this district goes. And so I would like to see that process. I would like to see the process move as fast as this vaccination thing moved, because it's too slow for me. I feel like, we can figure out how to move some things, and then the things that the boards want to do, it takes too long for me. I'm impatient, and I want to throw up. It just takes too long, and the system has to figure out how to move faster if we're going to respond to what's changing in the environment. And it can't take a year to put a plan together. And so I'm going to keep pushing that, y'all. I'm going to keep saying I'm not satisfied. But I will say it's much better than it was. I think it's way better than past years. And so, I appreciate the progress that's been made and the work that's been done. But I am going to keep pressing.
Trustee Harrison?
Yeah, we were in a period of transition, and we were trying to make sure that we didn't fall back into the habits and the relationship that we had before with our previous chancellor. We wanted to make sure that going forward, we had clear goals. And that's why we postponed the strategic planning, and we were talking about early on, I think all of us talked about, there was a strategic plan, but we had not had any participation in it. I mean, we got it sent to us and said, this is it. And so we're moving to that. We're working through all of that so that we don't get to where we were before. I think we had a really good transition. I put a spot against everything that was below a 3.5, because that showed some dissatisfaction. It's very difficult, I think, because we all have different definitions of seldom, often, and always. And it depended on what relationship we had with administration in many ways. So I'm glad that the goal setting and the planning is what is absolutely essential and what we're moving forward with. And so I think we're getting there. It would be interesting for us to take this again. I mean, we're going to have to take it again, but next June. And hopefully we would see something. Because we have done self-evaluations in the past, not, I would say, at least 3 years ago, where one board member put all 4s and one board member put all 1s. And so we were so divided as to how we perceived what we were doing as a board and in the district. And this is more cohesive than we've had in the past.
And I wanted to say also, remember when we took this survey, it was the first day. On the second day, Trustee Williams, you were really pushing to say, hey, we need to make some progress here. And we turned some things around, and you worked on identifying some core values. You worked on that vision statement, you worked on that mission statement, and you came up and you actually identified 4 areas that you wanted your new chancellor, along with her team, to be able to begin putting together some goals. So, like I said, you took this survey the day before, and then the next day we started the process. I think what came out of it, and we sort of agree with you, is the results of the survey really showed that the very thing that we talked about in the workshop, that you wanted to move forward, but you also wanted to give your new chancellor, Diana, an opportunity to get in and get her feet wet and get started. So I think, if anything at all, the data and the report validates where you were and where you're going, and that you're moving in the right direction. And I think as we left it, the core values, I think it was Diana and her team were going to start working on and finalizing and drafting out what those core values were, and then tie that into the long-range strategic goals, which you identified, the 4 areas. So I think you're well on your way, and we identify with you and we agree with you sort of what you came, but I think the results, again, of the survey validated what you have all said tonight, as well as validated what you said in the workshop when we did that back in June.
Trustee Williams?
Yeah, and I just want, I just want us to avoid the one man, one woman syndrome, because if, our chancellor is going to be successful, everything can't be predicated on her and just on her. It all can't be on her. So if we're in a car, the theory is you get the right people on the bus and get them in the right seats. Yeah. But, she's driving. If she gets a headache on our way to Fresno, we should be able to pull over, and Jose should be able to jump in and know that we're still going to Fresno. Sometimes I feel like we forget that we said we were going to Fresno and the car just parks. And we're a system. So it can't just be about, oh, we had a bad leader, because the way I see it, we're all the same people still sitting here. There's no new people that have been added since we've changed chancellors 3 times or 2 times. It's all still, it's still the same people. So I don't want us to have the excuse that, oh, my main point is one person should not be able to hold us up. One person should not be able to hold us up. We should be able to bob and weave and do what we need to do, and we gotta move faster. We have to move faster. And I'm not saying don't be thoughtful as you move, but the time we take to develop curricula, the time that we take to do certain things or whatever it is in the system, if we're gonna evolve it and do like we're talking about with guided pathways, it has to happen faster. And I'm talking about across the whole state, not just our district, because, we're seen as one of the best in the state. If you were on the call on the Bob, like, we're seen as one of the best districts in the state, but it's still not good enough for what we have to deliver for students, and that's part of the reason, I think the unsaid reason that, enrollment is drifting outside of COVID and all of that kind of stuff. Folks are, it's not, we got to move faster.
Other comments?
What did we do?
Yeah.
like you guys, as we looked at it, we thought, gosh, we were really interested to see the results of this year's self-evaluation at the end of the year, because I think with what you've got planned this year and what you've already started, I think it's going to be very different.
And as a reminder too, this is a different instrument. Remember, before you had done self-evals and you use a different instrument. So if you do this, or when you do this again, you use the same instrument, you'll be able to compare apples to apples and be able to see, okay, where are we based upon where we said we were back in June 2021, where are we now in June 2022? But I think the important thing is, what are the next steps that you as a board want to take with your new chancellor? And I know we sort of left it that the chancellor was going to work on, with her team, sort of identifying and fine-tuning what those core values were, and then work on translating those core values into your 4 areas that you identified as the big goals. Then you sort of identify the what. Now let the team do what they do best, which with your new chancellor coming in, and let them take it and move forward. And let her sort of be the driver behind that, and then come back to work with you as a board. So you talk about what are our next steps. Well, the next steps are, let your chancellor and her team come back to you with what she believes is the plan. And I think that's how we left it, if I'm not mistaken. And then we're happy to continue to work with you in whatever capacity. We're here to support your new chancellor in any way we can through the San Bernardino County Superintendent of Schools Office, who's providing these services for you for free. Because our superintendent, Ted Alejandre, wants to make sure that he provides that support, not just to the K-12 districts, but to also as a community college district. So we're there for you. We'll continue to work for you. I know, Chancellor Rodriguez, you have our information, and we'll be there to support you. So it's up to you as a board to say, okay, what are our next steps? Where do we want to go? And how do we accomplish that together?
Yes, thank you very much, gentlemen. Okay. I'd like to make one comment, though. I agree and kind of disagree with my colleague, Trustee Williams, because it is all the same people, but it's a different culture. And another thing that, I believe that it's that because of the level of transparency that this chancellor has brought in by including the cabinet and the presidents and all in the discussions and making their voices more prevalent so that we get the details that we need. It's not filtered, but in fact directly from the individuals involved. I think that makes a huge difference, and it helps us to speak in one voice, which is what we do now. And that wasn't always the way, 6-7 years ago when I started. We did not speak in one voice, and now we do. So I think that's a big difference. Yeah. Thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you very much. So that was a report only. There's no action involved with it. So I want to recognize Trustee Longville, and I appreciate you're probably breaking all speed records with all safety and law abidingness as possible to make it here from Northern California for this meeting. In your absence, there were 14 public comments. There was a brief presentation from the public, Josh Dugas, the public health director for the county of San Bernardino, and you had a copy of that in your book. So you saw basically exactly what he did. He read that. And that was it. And we wanted to have you here so that we could have a reasonable discussion about item A on the resolution to direct district leadership to mandate COVID-19 vaccinations for all SBCCD students and employees. And so we are moving back to that item, the discussion on that item. At this time, is there anything under the proper rules that I need to say to move us back to that, or was that enough? Okay, we're good. All right, yeah. Oh, true. 4A.
4A, and then as soon as we decided to revisit it at such time as you need a motion to adopt, I will make that motion.
Okay, I need a second to revisit?
I would.
Okay.
I'll second that.
Thank you very much. Now with a motion and a second to revisit the action agenda item A, we are open for discussion.
And I would therefore move adoption, so it's on the table.
Do we have to approve the motion that was originally?
We can have discussion now, right?
Well, we can have a
Oh.
discussion, but I have a motion on the table without discussion.
Yeah.
You said without, oh.
Didn't we make a motion and second to revisit, but we didn't vote on that?
Correct.
Do we have to vote on that, or no?
No.
Yes,
Okay.
we have to vote on that, I think, yeah.
All in favor of reopening the item, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the item is reopened. Now we can have discussion.
Now you make
The motion, repeat my motion to adopt.
Okay, is there a second to that motion? If not, we can have additional discussion. If there's a second, we would take a vote.
Well, we can still have discussion.
We can still have discussion with that on the table, okay. I just want to be 100% sure.
Second and then discussion.
Okay, may I have a second?
I'll second to move the discussion only.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to adopt, to move the discussion only. Now we can have discussion. Discussion, please.
Well, as I made the motion, I'll go ahead and speak to it.
Please.
Do we mess when we're talking as well?
Yes, please speak directly into the microphone and make sure that it's on the red light. Yeah,
Thank
as
you.
long as that's on, you're on the
All right,
microphone.
I'm sorry. I'm really pretty amazed at the resistance to vaccinations. I mean, I'm what is known technically as an old fart. And so when I was a kid, I got polio vaccinations and God knows how many other vaccinations time after time. And the procedures and the science were not as advanced then as they are today, obviously, 72 years later. And I just can't understand why so many people say they don't want to take the vaccination, but they'll go get horse dewormer and take that, or take the medication that is the best medication we have for it, which costs, I believe, $2,000 a dose, and hasn't been FDA fully approved yet. I'm frankly, I don't and I feel a responsibility as a member of this board to protect the students and our staff and everybody else that's associated with both our colleges and all the associated institutions. And so I strongly urge a vote to require masks or vaccinations.
I believe it is the desire of this board to ensure the safety of everyone on our campuses, to provide a quality and equitable education, and to maintain every single job that's in place now. I believe that is the desire of this board. I do not believe there's anyone on the board that wants jobs lost, unsafe people, or any lack of access to education. I'd be interested in hearing if there was. Good. I'm reading the analysis portion of this particular item, and I believe both Ms. Bayless and Ms. Mello mentioned timing. Look at analysis number 1. All students and employees learning or working on district-operated sites are mandated to be partially vaccinated by one date and fully vaccinated by another date.
Yes.
Chancellor, is there any flexibility in the November 1st date? Because if it was up to me, should this go forward, I would want it to align more with more time for our student and align more with classes. Like, if we went to January 7th, 2022, there wouldn't be that November date. I think it's just would be, if it goes forward, confusing to people on when they had to have things done.
Absolutely. I could support that, change the resolution and just eliminating the first date and changing it to read fully vaccinated by January 7th. So yes, we can make that change.
Okay. And then there was also a discussion of testing. Several people mentioned testing. We did it. They had to do it. I know testing is expensive and all this. I believe there's one of the last items on the.
That was mentioned.
Yeah, right. So one of the last items on the actual resolution.
May I just jump in? May I jump in just a little bit?
Yes, please.
I'm very interested in a plan for the cadence of testing. Should this resolution move forward? I'm very interested in seeing that because, well, I'll stop. I have other comments, but I'm very interested in the cadence, and seeing a plan for what that looks like, because I believe there is a shortage of testing, and how that impacts people, whether it's students, whether it's staff. That's important, and it's kind of like at the beginning of the meeting when we said, well, we have this 20-minute on any topic rule, but we're not going to follow it today. Why have it if we're not going to follow it? If we have a resolution that we approve that has a testing cadence that we can't maintain, then why would we approve that? It just doesn't, what's the point? So I'm very interested in that, and especially hearing from what our existing and current testing cadence is at the district. How often are we testing? Where are we testing on site within the district? Because I would imagine that would need to be part of the plan to have on-site district testing. So maybe I'll just start with that question.
Chancellor, can you speak to that?
Yes. So we have had testing on our campuses, both Valley College and Crafton Hills testing, and we've offered that to all of our employees to do that. As far as
what's the cadence of that? Is that weekly testing? Was that one time? Is it once a month?
We had, I believe, and presidents helped me out, I believe we had testing twice at Crafton Hills College and once at Valley College, I believe.
Just a clarification, what we've done at Crafton Hills College has been a vaccination clinic 2 different times. We have not run any testing at Crafton Hills College.
So I would be concerned about capacity to keep up with the cadence necessary for what's in this resolution as it's written. Because there is a very aggressive testing cadence required. I would imagine that we would need to be providing that. And if we're in a situation where we have not, and we do not have a history of providing regular testing, so weekly testing, what's our plan to get up to speed on that? I'd like to hear a little bit more about that.
Yeah. And then the cost associated with it, how are we paying for what's the impact on the budget that we just passed with the testing?
Did you have something to add to that particularly?
Just to make sure that we have full coverage and everything. I'm not against vaccination, but my whole family's been vaccinated. We're vaccinated. Because we do have fragile medical problems within our family, and we want to make sure that they're safe and that we are not bringing into our family area anything that is unsafe for them. But when we talked about the flexibility of this, and I think somebody mentioned about maybe losing students because they couldn't finish out the semester or whatever, just something to on the flexibility of the vaccination. What if we said everybody to be partially vaccinated by January and fully vaccinated by June? That takes care of this period of scholastic year for us. It takes care of the fall and it takes care of spring. I mean, it's just a suggestion.
But if you were partially vaccinated by January, the recommendation is, I believe it's like 3 weeks, 30 days, you would be done by February. So if the mandate was partially vaccinated by one period of time, it would just be 30 days later.
Mhm.
So I would remove, if any changes to be made,
Yeah.
I would recommend removing the partial and just put in the full.
The full.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because
So
it's just going to be 30 days later, so June wouldn't help.
Are you saying full by June then?
Yeah, she was saying full budget. What's the impact of that?
Yeah. Can you speak to that? Because that's a lot more testing.
Yeah.
That is a lot more testing, and at the current moment, we don't have the capacity to provide testing for all of our employees. We would seek out partnerships, but that is not a guarantee that we would secure those partnerships for testing.
Madam Chair?
Trustee Longo.
Do we have, who is our expert on staff with regard to such medical issues? I'm concerned that it seems to me like going as far as June, which is, still 9 months away, is leaving people unprotected for an awfully long time in a pandemic which
Yeah,
many
it's
people
just a
expect will
suggestion.
have run its course by then in
I
any
was just
event.
thinking about our academic year.
Well, so yeah.
So do you want to address that, Trustee Harrison, because you mentioned June?
We're just discussing. I just threw it out because it's the academic year.
Sure.
And so I wanted to make sure that we didn't discourage any students from finishing the fall semester and then enrolling in the spring semester. And that's the only reason that I said June. But the
Do we
wording
have
can be
a,
different.
An expert on the subject who's
Can I make a comment related to that? May I make a comment related to that? I just wanted to say I really appreciate the comments that everyone made tonight. I really appreciated everyone's comments. I was thoroughly unimpressed with the presentation from our Department of Health folks. I was really hoping for more information that would help inform me, because I am not a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. I am more of the variety of doctor that is more like the Tin Man, or no, not the Tin Man, the Scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz. I'm a doctor of thinkology. And so with that, I was going to be relying on the information from the medical professionals. So I happened to have had the opportunity today to hear Dr. Michael Niki from the Arrowhead Regional Medical Center speak to vaccines. And it was far more powerful and far more informative than the information that we received tonight. And depending on whatever happens today, it might be we might be better served. And full transparency, as the vice chair, I was when we talked about today, or talked about not today, but talked about the idea of what's going to happen with vaccines. It's like, well, let's bring in some folks from County Department of Health to help us make the decision. I did not know that we were going to get that presentation. I'm, again, thoroughly unimpressed with that. It doesn't help in any way. I could go look at a website and get their website and get the same information. I didn't need anybody to read me slides. But having a medical doctor, a professional who works in emergency medicine, speak to the efficacy, speak to the impact, speak to the experiences that are happening in hospitals, I think is powerful and could help inform a non-medical person who is on an education board who looks at educational elements more regularly, and really the medical piece I would leave to the medical professionals. So that's just in general my comment. Again, I appreciate what everyone has said. I don't necessarily think that I'm prepared with the information that we received today to really make a decision based on science or the information that we were provided today. So I'll just stop there for the moment.
Madam Chair.
Trustee Williams.
I just want to read a statement that I just took some time to write to make sure my thoughts were clear. I represent a diverse constituency, and this decision has caused me to grapple with how best to protect lives and livelihoods. I watched videos, read reports, talked with medical and legal professionals, students, parents, business leaders, educators, support personnel, and even my wife. None of this has made this decision any easier for me. The conversation has helped me know that I need to do what's best for students, faculty, and staff. This summer, I got vaccinated, and because I wanted to protect my mom and the elders who I am close with. I believe getting vaccinated saved lives, and wearing masks reduced the spread. I am not supportive of making vaccinations a condition of employment. I would ask my colleagues and Chancellor to consider how we can provide options to protect our students, faculty, and staff. Think about the unintended consequences and employees who this decision will disproportionately impact. I'm asking for the following: an exception for people who have deeply held beliefs that prohibit them from being vaccinated, broad promotion of the fact that 70% of our courses will be available online. Think about how our PBS station can help increase awareness of the benefits of vaccination and other methods to strengthen immune systems. Monthly updates on vaccinations and contraction rates. The ability for the board, if this moves forward, to pull back a mandate if the data warrants. And the speed in which this moves forward, I would like to see other items related to student success move at the same pace.
So am I hearing you say that you support the resolution with those amendments?
I mean, ultimately, I feel rushed. I've been asking for months to have this conversation. I don't feel like I've had the opportunity to have this conversation with my colleagues. I have talked to the team, and I am comfortable with their recommendation and their timeline based on some of the things that have been shared. But as an educational institution, I would like to see us do a better job at communicating. And what is our moral role in educating people on this? We've done a poor job at that. Like, we have a TV and a radio station, and I don't see that we're using the assets in the way that I would like to see us do it. But based on my conversation with the Chancellor, I'm confident in her leadership. Again, I'm not supportive that this be a condition of employment for folks. And I want to push that we have deeper conversations about how, I don't like to see that folks who say they don't want to get vaccinated, that their views are just dismissed and say, oh, you're crazy, you don't want to get vaccinated. I don't like that part of the politics that has been happening nationally, and we need to have deeper conversations about how we protect one another and what are the hybrid options, what are the options that we have at our disposal. And so, I am supportive of the Chancellor's recommendations with the caveat of that this is not a condition of employment. And then that we are exploring the options to, we've been working remote for 2 years or for a year, however. My employer, we have 13,000 employees. They're waiting until February to bring us back. I feel like, I know it's not gonna happen, but stay home. Stay home. It seems like he said it. He said staying home and away from people is the most effective way to stop the spread. That's what the dude said. And so I don't know why we're rushing to come back, but I know that's a dead issue. And so y'all know how I felt. I've told y'all this. Yeah. This is no secret. And so that's, yeah.
Well, but we also heard from a student and from a parent that online education is not the right way to address education for every student.
We need to upskill the skills of the folks that are delivering the education, and that's what we should be doing, is figuring it out. But just to say, oh, well, they can't learn online when you're talking about, well, would you rather have your life at risk, or would you rather deal with learning online? And so I'm just giving you my personal opinion. I was, elected to represent folks, and I'm just trying to think about. And then, as a taxpayer, pay for this building. Like, how you gonna tell me I gotta do something? Give me a refund. Then if you can't represent both sides, then I just, that's all that I'm trying to do is listen to what both folks, again, I'm vaccinated, so I chose to do that, and so I don't know what else to say other than that. That's just, how I see it.
I firmly believe that we want to address all of the perspectives, and I stand with you in how much I hate the politicizing of a medical issue. I think it's ridiculous. Yeah. But you made a really good point about not making vaccination a condition of employment. We want to keep jobs. We want to ensure safety, and we want to provide education. So let's talk about how the resolution or a change to the resolution ensures that all the jobs are preserved. Oh.
I have a question.
Yeah.
And I guess this would be for the chancellor, or it may be actually for HR. But does this district currently have any health requirements, or medical requirements that we require for employment or for students in this district? I don't care what it is that we're talking about. Do we require polio vaccination? Do we require a typhus vaccination?
I'm going to jump in early.
Anything.
Don't we require a TB test every 4 years? I remember asking about that to test. Okay.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Gotcha.
Just,
okay. Yeah. Thank you. The question was directed to staff.
a TB test?
Yes.
Is there any other conditions that for a condition of employment that we have, that we require of our people? I'm talking about related to, in some way, medical or health. Okay, so, well, that's a significant thing for me. If there were such a requirement for, say, for example, that you get a typhus vaccination or whatever, then I would use that as an argument for why I believe we should be imposing this one. I still personally believe that anything that's killed out of 500 Americans so far in the entire population of the United States is more than just, something that we take as a minor thing. It's a real big deal. But it is, in fact, if we don't require medical conditions for employment, then I can't use that argument.
Yes, please.
Two things. Ms. Hanna, can you address what happens if an employee tests positive for TB? What is our next steps with that process? Tuberculosis.
One does have positive showing, and then we have to require that chest x-ray every 4 years.
If after the chest x-ray if the individual still tests positive, what is the district's next step?
So if this is at the time of employment, we cannot offer employment until we get a doctor to clear them that they do not contain that level of contagion. We do have a statewide CCLC. We have a contagious disease AP that says TB tests have to be negative or have the chest x-rays as a condition of employment. If that can't be maintained, then we cannot maintain employment. We do have it on good authority that CCLC will be adding this to their list of contagious diseases in the future.
So the reason for my questioning on that is because it's always been the intent of the district, right, to negotiate the testing and how that will be determined and where that will reside. So in reading the resolution, right, and apparently it wasn't clear, but in preparing the resolution, the intent has always been to provide a way to provide testing, right? But that is, we believed at that time of the draft of the resolution that that is a negotiated item because there are many different ways for the waivers to be accessed and for the testing. So that was what I wanted to share with the group.
Can you go back to my question before and speak about the jobs? It is, I'm sure, not any of our desire for a single job to be lost. So how
That
does
is
this
correct.
resolution protect jobs?
This resolution protects jobs and the safety of our employees and our students that you mentioned. What also this does is for any individual that is not interested in becoming vaccinated, we will work out the solutions through negotiations on what the rights are of our employees with the goal of maintaining employment for everyone. As I said in the beginning, and I think most people have heard me say this, we never want folks to have to make a decision, right, if they want to be employed with the district, right, or do one of these things here. We want our students, and we want our employees to be safe, and we want our employees to be employed. Right? And so I think I've said that many of times, and I know this board feels the same way.
Yes, please.
So I'm going to just go back to the testing cadence, right? So I understand that, you know, for the waiver options, it appears that there's then a testing option for anyone who is not vaccinated. Is that, do I understand that correctly, or did I misunderstand that?
I'm going to say yes and no.
Okay.
And the reason that I'm going to say yes or no is because that is something that I believe that we need to discuss in negotiations to see what works for our various employee groups.
So it may be a different cadence per group, and that's on the employee side. What about on the student side?
On the students have an option of taking online courses if they're not interested in becoming vaccinated.
So for students, if they're not vaccinated, is their only option online courses, or do they have the option of a waiver with a test, again with a testing cadence clearly identified, and can they attend on campus with what's intended in the plan? Whatever's written in here, we'll just set aside for the moment, but the intention to provide for students the option to not be vaccinated and then opt into participating in a testing cadence that we provide for them at no cost, so that it doesn't become an exclusionary situation.
So far we have not found an option or a testing vehicle to capture that information, right? But that is something that we have talked about. We have looked at other districts to see what they're using, and what we have researched so far is that there's many problems. It is problematic with what has been implemented. So we are trying to eliminate that frustration for our students. But you know, this is new, right? That colleges and universities are going through, and so there's constant improvements. So once we identify a software package or information that would work for our district, then yes, we would absolutely allow the students to do this at no cost. And we can make the changes for the resolution. If we look at the second to the last resolve, it says that you give the authority to the chancellor designee to make necessary requirements. And that would be a necessary requirement to allow our students to take courses, whether they would want to face-to-face or hybrid or online.
Does that answer your question?
It helps. I'll say yes and no.
Trustee Williams?
Yeah, and I'm sorry to say, I feel like students and employees should be treated a little different in this situation, just because there's so many variables with students that are outside of our control, especially when you just have random people that can walk on campus. And so I think as many people that don't want to get vaccinated should be driven to online classes as much as possible, because, you know, we don't have gates around our campuses, and so you can't, you know, and so I just, you know, I don't want to create unsafe situations, and so I do believe that hybrid options should be available, and we need to promote the fact that 70% of the courses are available, you know, online, and just really think about how are we protecting the employees that we have that are vaccinated, and then, you know, what kind of options are we making available for the ones that that are not vaccinated. Where are we at this point? Like, how chopped up did we make this thing? And, you know, it sounds like we got a lot of edits in this. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean,
So-
did we get consensus on, because we added a lot of stuff. Conditions. Oh, yeah. I forgot. I'm sorry. My other question was the agreements, County of San Bernardino. Generally, we serve county residents. Do we know what the agreements that are in place with testing sites? So like in my city, I can go to, you know, this place on Foothill and I can just go get tested. Or you can go to the University of Redlands and you can just get tested. How are those agreements put in place? Or does the county have some kind of obligation to test residents for free? How is that taking place?
No, they don't.
Because I've been tested for free every time I go get tested. I don't, you know, they didn't even ask me for my insurance card.
I don't mean to interrupt, but I can speak to that because I just had to go through it.
Ms. Hannon, please.
I was going to see if if Michael Nguyen can come up and address the trustee's question.
This is a first for me. I don't exactly know where to stand, but hopefully you can hear me from here. So.
Stand near a microphone.
You want to come right here? Oh, okay. The mic's on.
Mr. Nguyen, will you please also introduce yourself for the public, please?
Oh, thank you very much. My name is Michael Nguyen. I'm the Associate Director of Environmental Health, Emergency Planning, and Safety Administration here at the district.
Thank you.
So if I understand the question correctly, my understanding is that in San Bernardino County, the testing opportunities are open to those who either, thank you, Stacy, testing opportunities for at San Bernardino County hosted testing sites are available to those who either live in or work in San Bernardino County.
And so how, do you know how the locations become testing sites? Because the University of Redlands has one and you could just walk in and get tested.
I don't know the exact particulars. I know that University of Redlands reached out to the county very early on to engage in that. I do know that there is interest in the county when they plan testing sites out. They're very strategic. I know there were some comments made about access for those who have potential transportation issues. That is something that is very much at the forefront of the county when they plan these sites out. There is one in downtown Rialto. So we are kind of in the middle of those two. Those are our two closest testing sites from the county.
Is that where you went?
How many employees do we have? Over 2,000, right?
If you include our part-time and our professional experts, yes.
I would think as an employer in the region with well over 2,000 employees, we would be sort of eligible to be a site, a testing site. We're probably one of the largest employers in the region, probably top 10 for sure, right?
Sure.
So I don't know. I don't know if we've looked at that as an option or not, just in general. But if I could just, you know, we as a board know that this is a discussion that has to happen in public. This cannot be a closed session item. We know that this is something that is, there's a lot to it. It's not a, it's a, you know, it's not a win-win. It's, you're gonna, whatever. So with that, you know, the fact that we've had the opportunity tonight to have this discussion, I think has been really, really helpful. And I think to everybody here, I think we still have a lot of unanswered questions. I don't know what the will of the board might be, and somebody asked a couple minutes ago, where are we? You know, I don't know what our options are to table this for tonight, understanding that we've had some really rich discussion, and look at it at our October meeting, or I'm just asking the question. Or someone move it, you know, we can call for the vote. I mean, but there's been a lot of changes, and that's, I guess for me, that's where I'm like, I don't know really what I would be voting on with the changes, unless Stacy can articulate that from the, can you articulate what the changes have been recommended?
The only change that we've really talked about is changing the date by which vaccinations would have to be complete. There were several items brought up, including the addition of an exception for deeply held beliefs that weren't necessarily religious beliefs against getting a vaccine. But we didn't talk about how that would actually be addressed. It was brought up that we needed to more properly emphasize the fact that 70% of our courses are provided online. I believe that's correct, right? 70%? Okay. But we would still want to talk about options for students that learned better not online. It was brought up that we needed to create greater awareness of the need for vaccines or COVID safety on our KVCR, which should be doing that, in my opinion. That we wanted regular medical updates, and that we would have the opportunity to be able to pull back on any of the items within the resolution should things change over time, because it appears things change. There's been up and down and all of that. So those things were all brought up. Also the question of the cadence of testing, how testing would be done, and if we were to even say January or June, would we be a testing spot? Is the time enough for us to become a testing spot by then, so that students and faculty would not have to leave their job, take extra time out of their already busy schedules to go and be tested? So how would that work? So those are the notes that I have.
May I?
Please.
I think we can accomplish all of the items that, or address the items, all of the items that Trustee Williams suggest. And I appreciate his thoughts based around this, and also his comments about entrusting the executive team to do the right thing with this resolution. I think we can still accommodate those wishes by still passing this resolution. Some of the items that are listed are operational, which I think we can accommodate.
So we have a motion and a second. I'm wondering, because
Is there additional discussion?
So, as I understand it, with all of these other comments that we've made, this resolution is not ready at this time to be passed? Or can we say that we can pass this resolution with the option, with making the adjustments that we have discussed? Is that what we're saying?
Mia?
Please.
Sorry, I jumped in too early. I'm sorry. What I was going to say is we have a motion and we have a second, and I know I made the second, and I'm wondering if the maker of the motion would be willing to change the original motion to approve the resolution with the caveat of the changes that we've talked about, but then also a more fleshed out plan that's going to actually answer the questions that we've come, like really fleshed out plan for that, at a date that, what would be that date, kind of a thing. Like, when could that be, when could you come back to us? I'd like to see, personally, I'd like to see every agenda, starting with October, with this as an ongoing, every month. I want this on the agenda, and I want to report on the status. So that it, and the status may be, we've had 3 meetings with public health, and we're working on becoming a testing site, okay. Or the status may be, whatever, it may be just a short paragraph or a short sentence, but I'd like to stay on our agenda every month so that it stays in front of us, and that then really pushes that speed of execution that we know we need, but it also pushes the communication of where we are, and then we're left or we're kept in the loop around those changes that happen daily, hourly, that are also addressed in the resolution. So I guess I would ask that. If that makes any sense.
No, I understand.
Okay, 2 questions.
As the maker of the motion, I would say that from the comments that have been made by both my colleagues on the board as well as by staff, I have the impression that we could go ahead and vote for the motion that is on the table with the understanding that the wording of it permits a little bit of interpretation by staff, and that we all agree on that, and there's not a problem with it. And so I would vote for my motion under those circumstances. I'd note still that I do feel as though it appears at the extreme side of the discussion, in that I kind of see this as an issue of where no, Typhoid Mary is not entitled to keep a job. Once we know that's the situation, she gets cured, whatever, but that does not, you do not have the, you do not acquire an entitlement to make ill and possibly kill other people on our campus. That is not an entitlement that is negotiated or whatever, as far as I'm concerned. But that puts me at the extreme end, I realize. So I don't expect that the board is going to take that position. But that's the way I actually see the issue, because I truly do believe in science, and I've seen this incredible evolution over the last 4 years as we've started to have a different attitude about science. But in any event, I would go along with the resolution as it is now. I would appreciate getting frequent updates, and my biggest concern is that we not delay so long that we're not providing any protection to anybody.
Can I just ask two clarifying questions?
Please.
Are we committing to any budgetary items in this? And then the visitors, how will visitors be treated in this situation when they come? Do they have to show proof of vaccination, or what's the deal about visitors coming on campus? Does anyone have any information about how that's currently happening, or thoughts and concerns about visitors?
We will develop that in the process, Trustee Williams. You asked about the cost.
Yeah, are we committing to any costs, like right with the way that we're approving this?
There will be some cost for implementation.
The testing is, I'm really asking about, are we committing to paying for testing? That's what I'm really asking.
Right now, we are not committed to any cost for testing at the moment.
Okay, and so, yeah, because I don't know if that's,
Please. I might imagine that there would be costs associated with staff of everything, you know, I mean, I can't imagine with 2,000 employees and, you know, tens of thousands of students in the mix, that we would be able to do all of the validation of waivers, testing cadence, and then figure out what we're doing about guests on campus and all of that with existing staff. So I would imagine there would be some staffing that would need to be, we would need to, you know, level up there.
There would be costs associated with that. Sorry, I understood Trustees Williams' question to be, are we committed to a cost for the actual test itself?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
that's what I thought he
Okay.
was asking.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's going to be really expensive, so I was just wondering, I want to make sure if we're approving this, we know the budget impacts, and I don't know if we're willing or committed to paying for testing. I know I have my thoughts about, you know, paying for testing, but.
Currently, right now, we have information or data that testing costs, right now, about $5 per test. If we were to implement it based on the county's numbers of about 62.5% or so that have not been vaccinated or partially vaccinated, we guesstimate that the cost to the district based on that would be approximately $2 million.
Yeah, that's textbooks.
Yeah.
For students.
That is-
I want to buy textbooks. That's what I want to spend.
It's a different part of the budget.
No, I got you.
Yeah.
I'm just telling you. We could buy more textbooks.
We could. But FEMA funds testing and FEMA doesn't fund.
I got you.
books.
I got
Yeah.
you. I'm giving y'all a hard time.
I know.
So what are the
So-
changes that are going to be incorporated? The date is changing, or no?
Well, the date would have to change, because do we have, Chancellor, time to get things into place in a reasonable way by January 7th as a vaccination mandate day? Or does that even affect that?
So
this
the
is
June
why-
date?
That's why I suggested June.
But that's testing between January and June if this goes forward.
If this goes forward and we keep
Why
the
would we
date
have
at January 7th, at any stage in our planning process, as we reach out to the county to become sites, if we reach out to some of our elected officials to help us become sites and so on, if that changes, again, in the second to the last resolve, it gives us the approval to make those changes in there. And then also, with the monthly updates that Trustee Houston has recommended, we can include that information in those monthly updates and advise of any recommended changes in the dates, advise as to what the costs are going to be, advise as to what the personnel are going to be, and to advise any other recommendations from my office or from our executive team, and also from the task force that is put together to provide input.
So,
I'm sorry, I'm so
Go ahead.
confused. What's the date?
yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm such a simpleton.
That's
But
okay.
what's the date?
Yeah.
What's the date in the resolution? On bullet 4 of the now, therefore, it
If
is
we-
resolved.
If
What
we
is
look at
the date?
If we look at the analysis on the first page, number 2, the recommendation is to remove the language that says partially vaccinated by November 1, 2021, to remove that language, and to change the date from January 1st to January 7th. Those are
Is
the
that
date
the start
changes.
of the fall, the spring semester?
That is correct.
Yeah. And then would that follow then in
And so,
Follow through.
item number 4
Yes.
of the actual
And
resolution?
so-
Because
Yeah.
we're not approving the analysis. We're approving the resolution.
Madam
Yeah.
Chair, would we have given everybody the opportunity to be able to be tested, vaccinated, yada, 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 during the holidays? We closed down the campus between Christmas and New Year's. So that, I'm just
point.
looking at the timeline and whether that's realistic.
Yeah, good point.
Is it realistic for people to get tested?
No, to get vaccinated.
I mean,
I mean,
vaccinated, yeah.
and also item
we
number
make it
1
available on the
for
campuses.
students as well. Then, did I hear that too? It's the same for students. The same date,
Yes,
the 7th
yes.
of January.
That date will carry out throughout the document.
Do we have final wording then? Excuse me, I'm sorry, Madam Chair, do we have final wording then? I'm ready to vote.
We have final wording on item 1 with their reduction of the partially vaccinated part and the change to the fully vaccinated to January 7th, 2022, which we are questioning is enough time for people to get vaccinated if they so choose before returning back to school.
Do we modify the exemptions?
I was going to say, that's number 2, right?
Okay.
The
We have 2
exemptions.
exemptions.
But I mean, I thought we were adding
I
3.
thought we were adding
Correct.
strongly, what was the word, strongly held
Strongly
beliefs?
held
Strongly
belief.
held, yeah,
Yeah.
personal beliefs or something like that.
I thought my understanding, I'm just going for clarification, is that the items that Trustee Williams mentioned, right, we would be able to accommodate those, but yet not include them in the resolution,
Then they have
so
to
that
be
we can move the
weekly
resolution
tested.
forward.
No, I'd like them in the
That was fine.
resolution. I mean, I would like those strongly held personal beliefs in the resolution.
As would I.
I mean, the other things seemed less resolution-ish.
Question?
You're a doctor. Sir?
Dr.
Madam
College.
Chair, may I ask, do we have in our requirement that pre-employment people get TB tests? Do we have an exception if they have strongly held beliefs that they don't want to take a TB test?
What exceptions do we have for not having a TB test?
Currently, we have religious and medical exemptions as required by Ed Code.
Religious
And medical exemptions.
Well, I would suggest that we should copy the same practices unless we have some reason, some scientific reason to do something different. Why do we not follow what we've already apparently done research on in the past and decided this is a good way to deal with this kind of an issue?
So
Why don't we stick with it?
So what the hospitals are doing is, from my understanding, is that if you have a religious or a medical, they're not adjudicating anybody's reason for their exemption. They're just like, if someone gives us an exemption, then, you know, we're not going to say, well, show me in the Bible or show me in whatever your religious document is. So I'm just trying to give the most amount of folks the opportunity to, if we're already saying that this is not a condition of employment, then I think that addresses it.
They don't have to take the vaccine, but they have to be tested weekly.
Yes, yes. I don't think anybody's really questioning that. The word I have issues with is religious, and I know it's in our other policies, but some people have strongly held ethical beliefs that they don't identify as religious and would feel unethical saying this is a religious belief.
Is that not what we have for the TB, the same thing? Or is
It
that
is.
only religious?
TB is not, there are no exemptions to the TB testing requirement.
Christine, I was wondering, you had mentioned CCLC,
LC.
and that right now TB is the only CCLC.
That is the only contagious disease that is a condition of employment.
And that you're expecting that COVID or whatever will be added to that list, right?
Correct.
But it's not yet.
Not at this
right?
time.
So until it is, we do have the latitude to be less prescriptive than what the current TB requirements are.
That is correct.
But once it is on the list, then we won't have those options.
That is correct.
Right?
Right. And the resolution allows for adjustment, correct?
Yes.
Up or down, if we see that there's
Yes.
a bunch of outbreaks, we can come back and say, okay, we need to back up and be more restrictive.
We
Well,
would
that's-
have to, because we don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And having it on our agenda that gives us an opportunity to, because again, we have to discuss this in open session. This is never going to be a closed session item. It gives us the opportunity for discussion every month to ebb and flow.
So, but what happens if something major happens and a meeting was 2 days ago and now it's a month before another meeting?
You have the right to call an emergency meeting. You
Right.
can,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So I don't want,
And
with the books, I don't want it waiting for us, you
Well,
know?
But
Yes.
the resolution gives the chancellor the authority to make a decision. We're simply asking for a report. So if something happens that there needs to be an action right away, that can happen through the chancellor and the executive committee. They can take whatever action they need to do. We're just saying, let us know.
Yeah. Well, it's not our job to do that. It's our
Right.
job to set the policy to
Right.
allow them to do
Right,
that.
which is what this would do. So,
Yeah.
but I think we're just wanting to be informed.
Yeah. Trustee Longville?
It is the case tonight that we do not have an attorney.
We do, right there.
Well, excuse me, okay, our attorney, okay. Then, you're the gentleman I need to ask this question of. With everything you've just heard, that we've just talked about, it sounds as though, I was just hearing the fact that the resolution has a very flexible clause in it. It has a provision that's sort of a, whatever else you need to do, you can do damn near. I mean, something pretty close to that. The fact that it has that language in it, does that mean that when we put this item on the agenda every month, as we just agreed we want to do, can we put it on as a report, or do we have to list it as an action item? The reason being, if the chancellor can take action without her having to pass any additional measures, then it can just be a report. But if we would have to take some kind of action as a board, then it has to be put on the agenda every month as a potential action item. Which is the case?
Well, your resolution is going to be guidance to your administration as to what they're authorized to do. So as long as they're acting within that authorization, you wouldn't need to continually pass the resolution or continually approve it. If you want her to, or if there's a situation where she needs to act outside of the parameters of the resolution, that would be the appropriate time to come back and amend the resolution or pass a new resolution with those new parameters or guidance.
So then, Madam Chair?
Sir.
If I may ask of the Chancellor, if she or whomever she wishes to consult on this feels that she has sufficient flexibility within the wording of the resolution that's in front of us, that we need not leave this on our future agendas as an action item, but merely as a report. Is that your
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you very much.
But if there was action to be taken, it would be taken in an emergency meeting?
That's correct.
That is correct.
Good. Well, I don't want to micromanage the process, but, you know, because I agree with Trustee Williams in that the Chancellor and her leadership staff are going to take proper steps to ensure the safety of our students and the protection of jobs and all of that. All right. Is there additional discussion based on all of the things, and the maker of the motion accepted the changes? And I don't know what we did with religious objections.
I'm wondering if we just strike the word religious, and then we wouldn't even have to do strongly held personal beliefs. If we just strike the word religious and say sincerely held objections, that handles
Religious
the
and
whole
non-religious.
enchilada.
Yeah. I think
I think
religious
it's all
is
all
subjective.
subjective.
Yeah.
It's all subjective. Yeah. I mean, yeah.
Exactly. Well,
It's
I don't
all-
want to tie it to a specific faith or doctrine and leave out someone who is strongly ethical and doesn't embrace one of those.
You can't do that?
We can't.
No, we can
yeah.
do what you want.
Oh, okay.
Can I ask, Chancellor, can I ask Christina, is that acceptable in HR's world?
Well, because we are following Ed Code, which requires us to have a religious exemption and a medical exemption.
Okay.
That's a requirement of us. And so if the board is advocating for a third exemption, then that would have to be what Chancellor Rodriguez is saying. We would be negotiating that at the table.
Okay. So are you saying, am I hearing you properly, saying that we would have to leave in religious because it's a requirement? Could we, but we can add the third, strongly held belief?
If that is the will of the board, yes.
Okay, so we can add that. I would be desirous.
But I'm
of
hearing
that.
the recommendation that
Yeah.
that would be something that would be added through negotiation.
Correct.
And that's the better route, is what I think I'm hearing. It's
Correct.
a better route to add that through negotiation rather than this board action.
Correct.
Okay. But would that ensure that students are covered and that all staff is covered regardless of their
So if it's,
classification?
Because like number
if it's
two,
through negotiation, students won't be covered by
students,
that.
well, number
Yeah.
2 is for students, so
Yeah.
I'm wondering if in number 2, we would add it. And then when we get to the employee one,
Yeah. Yeah. But we have to
which is
include
number 5,
religious,
right?
yeah.
The number 5 is the employee one, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And that's the one that you're saying anything added to that would be outside of the scope of Ed Code, therefore be a negotiation item.
Mm-hmm.
And we as a board would be sort of overstepping potentially our governance authority or governance
That's not
appropriateness, not authority, appropriateness. I don't know. I'm just trying to figure out what the downside would be of
To
it
adding it,
being
yeah.
added. Because I don't know. Maybe that's not a good question. Never mind. I strike that question.
I'm sorry, I'm not sure of the question.
What's the impacts of us adding the
Yeah.
closely held belief in the resolution?
It would, we would still have to determine how the testing would be maintained. It would add additional elements.
So what if we say, yeah, you're responsible for your testing?
I'm sorry?
What if we told people you're responsible for your testing?
That, again, is something that we would need to
the effects,
negotiate.
right? So
yes.
you have to negotiate the effects of our
Correct. We
decision.
have to negotiate the effects of it. And so as we add things, then there are going to be other things that we would have to take care of at the table. So the preference is to take care of it all at the table.
Right. Okay, so by negotiation, what about students? What about students? So
Number 2.
I
Number
don't
2.
want anybody picking up the costs of their testing if we mandate testing. So if the students have to be tested, I mean, what are we doing to protect the pocketbooks of the students?
Yeah. Saying they have to be tested.
I mean,
'Cause
students
it-
technically
it-
can be
it-
tested by the county.
It references item
Yeah.
6
Yeah,
in the
so-
student section, which then is testing.
So I think my recommendation is that we allow staff to work out the details of some of these items. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't want jobs lost. We want students to have access to classes in a way that they can learn. And we want people to be safe.
I don't want to pay for testing. The county pays for testing. I don't see why we would duplicate. The county pays for testing. Like, if we're going to spend money, it should be towards student success or upgrading the skills of faculty and staff or something that's going to build the district, but I don't want to pay for testing.
Yeah, so noted. All right. Okay, so then we come back to my question about, is there time to get things into place before we mandate people needing to do something.
Yes, and if there is not, we will bring it back to the board for an adjustment of the date.
So it wouldn't affect any student being able to sign up for a class.
Not to register for courses, no.
Okay.
How many of y'all been in a pandemic before? So we get a pass on this dialogue here. We get a pass. I know we've made it difficult, but we get a
Yeah.
pass. We've never had to do this before.
You know,
so.
if Dr. Singer was here, he would remember the Spanish flu. He would talk about it.
I just
Someone
say
needs to
we're
call
learning
him.
how to do what we don't know how to do.
Yeah, we get a pass on this one.
Yeah.
now.
Okay. Well, we get a pass on it, but we need to do it the right way. So what I'm hearing is we've made a change to the date. We're going to work on strongly held beliefs in negotiation. And we're going to find a way to apply that to students who should have the same rights as staff in this particular case, in my personal opinion. I don't know how we're gonna do that.
You're gonna tell us in our monthly reports.
Yeah. You're gonna figure it out, okay. Well, I trust that what you and the group figures out will be in the best interest of our district. I have no doubt of that, and you hear what we've been saying and what's important to us and what's important to your constituents as well. So is there anything on the record that you have concern about that we should be aware of at this point in time?
I do not, and if concerns arise, they will be noted in the monthly report.
Call for the question?
Yes, I'll call for the question. So we had a motion and we had a second. Do we need to restate?
The maker of the motion has accepted all of the amendments that we have discussed.
Okay.
Is that correct?
That's yes.
Okay, so, good Lord, we're not on Zoom anymore. We don't have to roll call this. So, all in favor of accepting the vastly amended resolution, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? Thank you. Motion carries as amended. Moving on.
Take a little break.
Well, we're going to go to closed session in a moment. So let me just announce the closed session items. They are conference with legal counsel, existing litigation, government's code section 54956.9, and a bunch of things. 2 cases, and then public employee performance evaluation for chancellor, which is always on there. Those are the items. Was there any public comment on closed session items? Hearing none. I'm going to convene us to closed session, after which we will do any readouts and reconvene the meeting and do the readouts, and then close the meeting and adjourn. So thank you everyone for being here. reconvene the meeting. Madam Clerk, is there a readout?
Yes, on September 23rd, 2021, the board unanimously, with 5 board members present and none voting against, took action to approve settlement of liability claim number 545670 with employee number 24074.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. At this point, I will adjourn the meeting. The next meeting of the board is a business meeting on October 7th, 2021 at 4 p.m. here in the SBCCD boardroom at 550 East Hospitality Lane, Suite 200 in San Bernardino. Thank you very much.
Thank you.